we don't learn from our successes. We learn from our failures and we learn from our disappointments. We learn from the downtimes. And if everything was always easy, we wouldn't have much growth. So if you really want to grow, don't be afraid to fail.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to my show. My name is Tiffany, and this is Unveiling Journeys. I am so happy to have you with us here today. I have an amazing guest for you, and I just want to tell you a brief second about me. I love people. I love meeting new people, meeting cool people, and I love being introduced to some of those coolest people I've ever met in my life. And here's the way it goes down. I end up hanging out one-on-one with someone that I've been introduced to, and I end up saying, "Oh my gosh, you're so cool. How do I get to meet more cool people just like you?" Or if you're like, "Tiff, I don't hang out with cool people." No, you're going to say, "Wow, this has been a fun conversation. Who do you know that I need to know?" Because at this point, you get to open up your network to people and hopefully share anybody that you want. And I often find myself saying, "Oh, you need to know some of the people I know. Can I please introduce them to you? How do you want me to introduce them to you?" And that's how I met a phenomenal, like, daisy chain of people that led me to another amazing lady that introduced me to Paul. And that's going to be our phenomenal guest today. I'm so excited to have you here with me. Paul, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And I appreciate
That's,
you and your time.
yeah, I'm honored to be here. This is going to be fun.
Totally, totally. Let's do this. Tell everybody a little bit about what you're up to right now. What are you doing?
Well, so I would say that where my focus lies is in three areas: my family, two teenagers that keep me really busy, and then my businesses. Host a mastermind community called Boss Academy, which you and I've talked about. It's an area where I'm super passionate about it because it's changed my life and really made a great transformation in the lives of many of our members. And then I do sales coaching and consulting, and I have a training program called Askology Method that I'm really proud of. That just has really kind of simplified the way that we drive engagement and earn trust and really build deeper relationships.
Right. I love all the stuff that you're working in. It's near and
Thank
dear
you.
to my heart, being sales forever, but also like the networking angle and then the mastermind angle. I thrive to be quite frankly, like, I don't want to be the smartest person in any room that I show up to be in. I have to learn from other people. It's so you inventing an entire academy based out of this, and the couple people I've met in it are so cool
Yeah,
for
there's
who they
some great
are.
people. It's
Uh,
fun when people think you're the smartest person in the room, but generally that's not the case. I don't have that problem too often. So
no, the I guess I have like a wordsmith. We're like, "Oh, Tiff." I'm like, "No, no, no. No, I am not. No, I don't want to be the expert in the room, right? I want to learn from everybody."
yeah.
Well, we
Well,
had a
that's
really
the
good chat, and I was excited to bring you on here to share what led up to you starting this ridiculously awesome set of businesses that you have. Let's do that. Let's crack into it. Tell me, like, where are you from, and where did this all start? And like, the very beginning.
wow, loaded question. I'll tell you. If you want me to go the way back to the beginning, I grew up in a small town in Nebraska that had 365 people. Basically had a person for every day of the year, and it was really interesting growing up there because anything larger than my town I thought was a big city when I was a kid. And I told my mom, I want to live in the big city. There's a town we used to go to that I think had 30,000 people. And I said, I want to live in the city like this someday, mom. But, growing up, I always had this desire and this concept in my mind that I was going to own my own business someday. But I didn't grow up around entrepreneurs. I didn't grow up around great examples of success. I mean, I knew ranchers who did well, but anybody that owned a business in my area seemed to struggle or flounder. And, my dad was a teacher, my mom stayed home. So I didn't really have those entrepreneurial examples. I had an aunt and uncle that really inspired me. And, I'd see them a couple times a year. And I always thought, wow, they own their own business and this is what you do. But I didn't have that foundation. So when I went to school, I went to college at the University of Nebraska. I had the opportunity when I was fairly early in my college days to work for the Gallup organization. So I started working in marketing research, and it was a really great opportunity. And eventually, I moved into the corporate office and I did some really cool things, but I just always had this desire, Tiffany, to own my own business, but I didn't have the courage to do it. And the more I went on, the more that I really got married to that paycheck, that comfort. And I just really didn't think it was something I would ever do. But I kind of had this feeling that I was always like, just felt like I wasn't fulfilled because I wanted more. And I remember thinking one day, it's like, well, what's the most entrepreneurial thing I could do, but still have that security? And it's like, oh, I could move into sales. So after 10 years in operations at Gallup, I moved into a sales role. And because I thought, well, that's the most entrepreneurial thing I could do. And it really was in a way, because, I had my own book of business and I kind of controlled my fate and I was working on commission. And so it was kind of in a lot of ways like owning a business, but I had that paycheck to fall back on, which was nice. But, as time went on, I moved from outside sales into sales leadership and started doing coaching and mentoring. And I really fell in love with that. And I had the opportunity to work for a company that at the time I was dating this girl who we became engaged, and she was running the operations team. And they hired me on board to run the sales team, which was really interesting because we're in this relationship and we're going to be working together at that level. But it ended up being amazing. We loved it, and it's like I'm thinking this is the greatest thing. Sunday nights we couldn't wait to go in the office. The owner of the company talked about us taking over the company, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. But eventually, he got offered an opportunity to sell the company, and he had promised us equity, but we we're very smart about it. We kind of operate on a handshake and kept waiting for him to fulfill that obligation. It's like, oh, the lawyer's working on it. And then one day we find out he's selling the company, and it was pretty devastating. We went from Sunday nights being excited about the next day to Sunday nights, she's in tears and we're all stressed out and
Yeah.
hated it. The company that acquired us micromanaged us to death, and it was just a crazy time. And so, stepping back to that vision of owning a company, it was something that I thought, well, maybe now's the time to do it. But we had gotten married at that point. She was 8 months pregnant, and it was kind of at a breaking point. It's like I had to leave and get a new job or quit and start a company because our marriage wasn't going to last if we kept in that environment. So eventually I negotiated out of my contract. I was interviewing, and I was really well known in the research industry at the time. And I kept getting offered jobs and I kept turning them down. And she's like, what are you doing? You either have
Yeah.
to take a job
Yeah.
or start this company you've talked about. And that was kind of the permission I needed, Tiffany, because she was very risk averse and I thought she wouldn't be on board with it. And when she said that, I'm like, now's the time.
Yeah.
And so day one, I was able to secure some clients. And so, like I said, she was 8 months pregnant when I negotiated my contract. My son was born in May, and I started my company in July. So he was a couple months old when I started, and it was super exciting, super scary, but it was the best thing I'd ever done. Now, I tell this story because I was very blessed and I had a lot of people around me that wanted me to succeed. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue how to start a company. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to build my own personal board of directors. And I reached out to some people that I knew that, a couple of them were business owners, and one was a sales leader, one was a lawyer, one was a bookkeeper. And I thought, would you guys be on my board of directors? I can't pay you, but all you have to do is just, once a month, maybe I'll call you and we'll have some conversations and we get together as a group. And they all were like, yeah, we'd love to do it. So I had like 9 people, day one, that I kind of built this little foundational board of directors that was just there supporting Paul, wanted to see him succeed. And then I found a SCORE mentor, and SCORE is Service Corps Retired Execs, which is a division of the SBA. Great organization. So I had this mentorship there. I had these board members, and here I am going, now what do I do? And but it was great because I had some clients day one, and the first year was nothing but exciting. I was in a position where I could afford not to pay myself for a while, so I was blessed in that regard. But I never thought I was a creative person. And then day one, I started a sales coaching and consulting agency and had all these ideas, and the ideas were flowing, and I'm creating all these different concepts, developing programs. And Tiffany was amazing because it's like I unlocked something in myself that I didn't know existed.
Right.
So,
Like you had that deep within you that you were bubbling into, right? Like you
yeah.
finally give yourself the freedom under no other umbrella or shelter, right? It's like, wait, what am I capable of?
Yeah, but I still was I look back at that time and I was pretty oblivious to a lot of things. I really didn't know what I was doing, but it wasn't for those people around me. I don't think I would have made it as far as I did. That was 2009 and here I am still today. I stepped away from that sales consulting business because of my marriage. It was just hard traveling all the time, and so I stepped away from that and started doing more marketing. And in 2014, we talked about Boss Academy, which is the community I run. In 2014, I had an opportunity to host a radio show. I was at a networking event that was hosted by a fairly large tech company that would put on these events around different golf tournaments because they were a sponsor of a precursor to the PGA, like a underling tour that if you went on that, you could get on the PGA tour. So they would host these business events, and I got invited, and I thought, I'm not going to go. It's going to be a pitch fest. I don't want to be sold anything. But the last minute, I had this inkling to go, and I go to the event, and I'm sitting in the audience, and the speaker was great. She was really very knowledgeable, but she was kind of talking over the head of the audience. A lot of the people in the audience were smaller business owners. There were some mom and pop shops and some smaller service based companies, and there's about 70 people in the audience. And during the Q&A, people were asking questions, and she was answering them. But like I said, she was kind of talking over their heads and unintentionally. And I remember this one gentleman who had a successful YouTube channel asked her some questions, and she answered his questions, and you could just see his eyes kind of roll back in his head, like, this isn't giving me what I need. And so I raised my hand. I said, I don't have a question, but can I provide some clarification for this gentleman over here and give him some tools that I use? And she goes, yeah, absolutely. We love this. Please do that. So I did. And the next thing you know, people are asking me questions.
I love
And
it.
the speaker was gracious. She was like, oh, yeah, please, please, please. We love this. And afterwards, people are coming up, handing me business cards. It was like kind of overwhelmingly flattering. And this woman approached me and she goes, I loved what you said. And you were so great. And she goes, I'm the general manager of a radio station in Dallas. And she goes, I'd love to get your card because we have a lot of syndicated shows. But we have some local shows, and I'd love to get you on as a guest. And I said, great. Give her my card, and I said, do you have a card? And she goes, no, I don't have any cards on me. So it's the old don't call us, we'll call you trick. Well, that's fine. About a week later, she called me and she goes, listen, we actually are launching this new program, and we looked you up, and after everything you said, we'd like to offer you a show instead of having you on as a guest. And I thought, I've never even been behind a microphone. I'm like, oh, okay. And I had previously hosted a podcast, a video podcast with a gentleman in Atlanta. We kind of did this show. It was called Business Beyond the Trenches. A lot of fun. And that when that ended, he took on an engagement that took him away. So I always missed that show. And I thought, oh, I'd love to do something again. So she offers me this. And I thought, yeah. So I drive over there, check out the radio station. And she goes, we have a Monday night drive time show that we'd love to give you. And I'm like, okay.
It's incredible.
So first episode was like really painful because I'd never even been behind a microphone, Tiffany, and but it went well. But the show was successful because at the time they were measuring it based off of call-ins, and got a lot of call-ins, and I had some phenomenal experiences. So Boss Academy was this concept that I'd had, and I got to bring it to life. And Boss Academy then later turned into a podcast, and I got on a top 10 business podcast list in 2017. The show itself was life changing. Fortunately, my marriage, which had been rough because of the business, really never got better. We ended up getting divorced. It was sad. But in 2017, I shut the podcast down because I felt like I needed to spend time with my kids and focus on them. And plus, I just wasn't in the frame of mind to do everything I was trying to get accomplished. Fast forward in 2021, coming through the pandemic, thought, man, I really need to get back into a mastermind or something where I can get some support because I just, coming through the divorce and then the pandemic hit, my business took a big hit and I was really stressed out. And a friend of mine goes, "You've always talked about bringing Boss Academy back as a group. Why don't you start it?" I'm
Yeah.
like, he's right. So I started this mastermind community, which you have been exposed to. And it changed my life. It set me on this amazing course of creativity. I started connecting with people that were on a better path than I was. And it's like we're learning from each other and supporting each other. And it's been just amazing. And it allowed me to step back towards my sales coaching and consulting, which I'd stepped away from for years. So here I am back doing those things that I was supposed to have been doing all along, supported by this community that has helped me just connect with people like you. I don't know. It's been really amazing in terms of growth and support. And I guess the one thing I want to say is that being an entrepreneur, sometimes you feel like you're on the journey by yourself, but you don't have to go it alone. And in fact, I didn't start alone because I had that board of directors group. And here I am today. I'm not alone because I've got people I can pick up the phone and I know they can offer support and they can challenge me and put me in a place where I need to be. And instead of just trying to figure it out all alone. And there's so many entrepreneurs out there, I think, that are struggling because they are stressed out. They don't know how to deal with the ups and downs and they're not being honest with themselves at times. And so here I am talking to you. And I know you're a person that if I needed to pick up the phone and call you and ask you a question, you'd be there for me. And I
Oh,
love
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Those
So
are the best to surround yourself with. And that would that be like the definition of a little bit of your mastermind that you've kind of not kind of, you're fully into? Because that's one thing that some people are listening to this like, wait, should I come to your mastermind? Like, who are your
of
favorite
course,
people that you would want to have pop into that?
I'd say what really separates our group apart, and it's not easily defined in terms of like I couldn't just look at somebody and say that's the person that fits. It's purpose driven leaders. You've got to have something that drives you beyond the paycheck. If money's what you're chasing, and there are people out there that's what their focus is, even though maybe money's not the true driver, but that's what their goal is like how much money can I make? If that's your focus, you're probably not going to fit in well with our group because our group is really focused on people that we are there to serve others. We're there to make a difference. We want to leave a lasting impact. I mean, I'll give you an example. We have our community actually has an organization that we work with called EverTrain, which plants trees around the world. And every month we make a contribution to EverTrain to support them. But we plant trees in the name of our members, our sponsors, our guests, our speakers, because it's our way of leaving a lasting impact. So it's not just about how much money can we make. It's like what kind of a lasting impact can we make? I think that's really kind of the driver for our members.
I love that. That's incredible. It reminds me of like, I wanted to have an impact for myself. So I bought myself a star at one point in my
I
life. I'm
love
like, I
that.
want to have my star, my name on it, right? If I'm going to go to the stars someday, right? Why not have my own star named
Yeah,
after me?
I think that's very cool.
That's
Yeah,
fun.
because it does make it bigger than just yourself, and it's like I always wanted the mastermind to support entrepreneurs. So when I had the radio show, BOSS stood for Business Ownership Success Strategies. So BOSS always had this meaning, and it still represents that. But it was always about the membership and what our members could do. But when we started working with EverTrain, now all of a sudden the focus could be much bigger because it's like, okay, we're making an impact that can last generations. And I'm not an environmentalist, but that organization spoke to me, and it was a way that our community could do something that makes a lasting impact. And it's really interesting because there's two people in our membership that they're a husband wife team, and they help people write books and they help get their books published. They were talking about we love EverTree because I mean books kill so many trees and we've been so responsible for the death of so many trees and now we actually can make an impact and give back and so it's like it's really neat to see the bigger picture behind something like that.
That is a fun little closed loop on, like, their
Yeah,
printing cutting down the trees, and we'll plant them all over again. That's
exactly.
awesome. Let me ask you this. I feel like you're doing awesome. You could probably hang up your hat at this point, but, like, why do you keep showing up? Why do you keep trying so
Well,
hard?
listen, I I definitely I'm not where I want to be. I think that there's more, but it's not so. But that doesn't have to be in the form of entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship, I think, is it's one of the toughest things I've ever done, especially being a single father trying to run a business. I think was the hardest thing ever. My kids are now at an age where they're a little bit more sustainable. They're self sufficient. They're teenagers. They think they've got it all figured out. But when they were little, it was hard. But for me, I have a why behind what I do, and my why is I know what it feels like to not think you're ever going to be able to achieve your dream of owning a company, and I know what it's like to have a company and feel like everything's falling apart because your personal life is a disaster, going through divorce and going through COVID. And if I can eliminate the stress and help my members and people that are a part of our community avoid some of those mistakes I've made, or some of the mistakes that I potentially could make, um, that fuels me. It keeps me going. That's why the show mattered to me, and that's why the community matters. So it's like it's one of those things that I always I want to support others, but I'll be honest with you. In turn, it transformed my life. I went from feeling like I had no direction to now I'm serving with purpose. And it's allowed me to go back and do the things that really matter to me, creating this training program that really, I think, is transforming the way people sell. And so it's like there's just a lot of reasons to keep going because I haven't filled my mission yet. And quite frankly, I keep going because they keep me going.
I love that. That was well said. All right, at this
Thanks.
point, people are thinking, I wanna know Paul. Like, I wanna follow him. What are your favorite ways that you want people to come, find you?
Well, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. That's a great way. You can go out and search for Paul Kirch on LinkedIn, but paulkirch.com or bossacademy.com are two sites that I would highly recommend. Connect with me there. And I'm easy to find. And quite frankly, I'd love to connect with your listeners.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I appreciate you've made yourself accessible to be able to see the people
Yeah.
that are listening, they can come reach out to you, make it easy. All right, I have 2 more questions. What's on the horizon? Like, what's coming up next?
Well, so Askology Method was a program that I started creating years ago for myself when I was doing sales coaching and helping support others. We're doing a relaunch of it in 2026. So it's really it's in a great place now, but in 2026 the relaunch is even going to be better. So
Nice.
that's ahead of me, and I want to continue to grow Boss Academy. We've always intentionally kept it small because we didn't want it to be like this massive group where we kind of lost that personal touch. But we're at a point where we need to grow it a little bit, and so we'd like to grow it to a couple hundred members and
Nice.
keep it at that level. So that's where the focus is in 2026.
Oh, perfect. This is a perfect time that we're putting this podcast out. It
Yeah.
just darn near beginning of 2026. So this is going to be a good push for everybody who's thinking about it. Like, yes, yes. And then let's do this. I want to ask the last question. What, and this might be tough, but what are your golden, not just one, but like your golden nuggets of wisdom, your words of wisdom you want to leave with everybody?
Well, there's a few things I could say. There's a book written by a woman named Jillian Zoe Siegel, and it's called Getting There, a Book of Mentors. And she went out and interviewed people like John Paul DeJoria, Warren Buffett, Anderson Cooper, shit, like a bunch of different millionaires and billionaires that she interviewed. And some of these people, it took her, I think when I spoke to her, it was like 2 years of trying to pin down some of these interviews. And then she kind of wrote this really neat little formulaic book. Every chapter is about an individual and that's kind of that follows the same process. But, what's interesting in that book, Tiffany, every one of those people had something where it was a breaking point that could have taken them away from what they were doing, or if they got through it, could transform their life. And John Paul DeJoria, who is known for Paul Mitchell Company, at the time he was living in San Francisco out of the back of a station wagon. He was broke. He was trying to get his company funded. He was going through this process, and he and his son are living in out of the station wagon. And this actress friend of his, who was originally from the UK, she found him. And she goes, "This is ridiculous. You shouldn't be living in a car. I've got an extra room in my apartment. You and your son can live there." And so he loved it because she had this British accent at the time. Her answering machine message made him seem really professional because he had this wonderful sounding English accent on his voicemail. But my takeaway from that is I think there's a point where we all have to see some sort of failure or setback to really reach a point of success. Because if we don't learn from our successes, we learn from our failures and we learn from our disappointments. We learn from the downtimes. And if everything was always easy, we wouldn't have much growth. So if you really want to grow, don't be afraid to fail. In fact, what's his name? Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank said, fail fast, fail cheap.
Yep.
And I love that because it's like, it's okay to make mistakes, but if we make mistakes, we learn from those and then we can grow and we can find success. So I guess my takeaway, my long answer to your very short question is don't be afraid to fail because failure is how we learn, how we grow. And as an entrepreneur, you're going to have times which are going to feel like failure.
Mm.
And if you don't, you're probably never going to really reach that level that you could because you're not pushing yourself hard enough.
Man, you said it so well. I love your
Thank you.
answer.
Thank you.
I believe 100% of it because that, like, it's a little bit of a roller coaster being an entrepreneur unless you're not putting yourself out for those opportunities to fail or big, big challenges, right? So,
Yeah. The only other thing I'd like to add is, and I said it before, but you don't have to go it alone. This idea that when people say entrepreneurship is lonely, it does feel lonely at times if you don't build the right support around you. You can't have your friends and family be your support group as an entrepreneur unless they're also entrepreneurs, because if they don't know the pain, they don't know what the struggles are, they can't really support you. In fact, they're going to want you to avoid the pain. They're going to want to help you avoid mistakes.
right.
But you
Like
need to be
the
around people who can relate.
I hear
Yeah,
the story about the crabs. All you do is put one in, and then they just grab the rest of you down because they don't want you to experience the other side of it. They're trying to protect you, but it's really hindering you in business heavily.
absolutely.
Hmm.
That's why I love
This has
people
been
like
so
you
fun.
because I know you're there to support everyone. So I love
Yeah.
that.
The ever visionary encourager is my, like, 2026 going into it. I love it.
Beautiful.
Um, this has been awesome. I'm so grateful for your time. I'm so glad that you came on and shared your story and your
Me
your
too.
words of wisdom because they were great. I appreciate everybody who's listening. Thank you so much for tuning in and being able to listen to Paul today. And I look forward to having you guys listen in on the future episodes. And I will talk to you soon, Paul. And everybody go have a great day.
Can't wait. Hey, thank you, Tiffany. Bye, everyone.
Bye.